classroom that is teacher-centered.
Okay. The teachers, at some point, it's appropriate.
It's appropriate at some point that the teacher becomes the center of the world, more than the class, the center of the world. There is something, there is a special empathy that has to happen prior to teaching or learning, which is the empathy of the teacher and the student. I have, in my experience, found that empathy starts by admiration.
Okay.
The teacher must be admired by the student. The teacher must have, related to the student, stories, life experiences, accomplishments of things they've done that at some point the students feel that they would love to accomplish too.
And so
that's how you create that directional relationship with the human being you want to affect. And if it's so it wouldn't be rare, and I would approve, methodologically speaking, to find a teacher talking to a group of students for 40 minutes if that person has an important story to relate to them, if it is an experience that he wants to share with the students, if it is an experience that the teacher expects is going to create an impact and it's going to make the students think and react about something. That is absolutely necessary. You can't do without that. Because human beings need direction. Yeah. We wouldn't have soldiers and generals. Human beings are actually dependent on that.
And so we lecture less after we've caught their admiration.
What I feel how I feel that this can be defined is that we have always a whole spectrum of ways to present content. Lecturing is the worst of them all.
Right.
Because this what I'm saying here is a means that teachers have to create empathy with their students through speech. Because empathy is a personal thing.
Right.
It's me feeling with you.
Right.
Okay? It's like compassion, commiseration. It's a type of relationship. Now, of all the ways to present content, it's when we have to, it's when lecturing is the least effective one.
When it's content, but the interesting thing is what you're talking about.
Yeah, one thing is to
building empathy.
Building empathy, which is a necessary part of the teaching learning process.
Right.
I mean, would you learn something from someone you hate? Well, then when you're an adult, you might, but it requires big human beings. You know?
Right.
You know, you have to like the person, you have to admire. Even respect shouldn't come from fear.
Right.
It should come from admiration.
Right.
The student should come to the point and say, "Jesus, I love this teacher. I will behave. I'll do this for him."
Right, and especially when the teacher then says, "Now that I've got your attention, now that I've told you I'm using the lecture to efficiently transfer stories and feelings,
exactly.
Not the information."
Now, when it is the presentation of content, then you have the videos, then you have the research process, then you have the projects, then you have the questions, the students participating, the spontaneous debate, then you have all the ways to get there.
But
that engage the student on a major plane. Yeah. But that's after creating all the proceedings and backgrounds of who we are, what are we doing here, what are our roles. I'm a teacher, I'm not your boss. We want to work together to learn something together.
Right, and I need your participation
Definitely.
For this to work.
You are the most important part of it. If you don't do it, then I cannot do it.
I thought the most important thing that anyone hearing this can take away is that at some point the student expects the teacher to be at the center.
Yes.
And that's what you have to start there. That's where the student is.
Yes, and at some ages, it is absolutely clear that at some ages, when a student looks at a teacher, is looking at an authority, it's looking at a father figure, but the person may be none of them, so the person has to build that thing up. Right. That rapport has to be built. And it comes, I say it comes with admiration. You have to, as a teacher, you have to know what stories you're going to share with your students that are going to affect them in a positive way. Things that they are going to be willing to be like or to emulate or to imitate, or at least to admire.
And the value of the lecture in that case is to build that feeling, not necessarily to transmit content, it's to build the feeling in the student that I really like sitting near this teacher.
Yes.
I want to hear what he next says.
Yes.
And the next thing that's said is, we're going to build these classes together.
And then you have their attention, and then you can work with them, and then you can teach. If you want evidence of these, it's easy. Go into one of the classrooms and bring Dwayne Wade and have them talk to them.
Right.
Immediate attention. They all want to see what the guy's got to say.
Right.
It's one of their heroes.
Now, if he starts teaching math, eventually they will say, well, I like the guy, but he's just lecturing at me at math.
Yeah.
No.
The credit card will die soon.
Right. But if he came in and said, here's a quotation, and here's a definition, and I'd like you to match.
Yeah, revolutionary ways of teaching. That's what's got to be done. You know. And try and fail, but still keep trying until you find what works with each individual student.
So when we say lecture less, we start by lecturing to build rapport, which means telling stories, not transferring
relating
content.
stories. Yeah, finding what's common with the students, finding what students admire, what they like to hear, finding out their needs.
And we're creating empathy through speech, which
Yes.
is a nice way of putting that. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.